Let's talk about the DOJ, how important it is. And I know you know it's important. I'm not going to sit here and insult your intelligence, but let's figure something out here. Why don't government people go to prison? Because we have to have that. You know, I'm hot on this. I always have been. I always will be. The only way to structure a society is by taking people who have power, government power, and holding them the most accountable. The deepest, darkest prisons, the worst possible punishment in any society should not be reserved for murderers. Yeah, I'm fine, do whatever you want with the murderers. It should be for government people who take their power and abuse the people with it. The crime is so severe, it can destroy nations. And now, I bet you nothing I just said blew you away. You agree. You agree. These government people have to go to prison. And I've said many times before, and I mean this, you will know our country is getting back on track when you start seeing government people in a significant number going to prison. When you have a corrupt, criminal, gangster government, the corrupt gangsters in the government have to be sent to prison. I'm not talking about one little patsy here, a little slap on the wrist there. Go to prison. Okay, so we all agree. I agree, you agree. Why hasn't it happened? That's the question. Why hasn't it happened? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. The DOJ, the Department of Justice. If we will do our little hypothetical 100-person village where we all live, and it's one nation, it's our tribe, and there's one hut where you have to report crimes. And when you report crimes to that hut, the people who work in that hut, then they will decide whether or not the crimes are prosecuted. Government crimes, regular crimes, you go to the same hut every single time. Well, if every time you bring a crime into that hut that was committed by a government person, they just decide not to prosecute it, what kind of tribe do you have? How long is your tribe going to exist? That's exactly where we are in the country. America's Department of Justice exists and has existed under Democrat presidents and Republican presidents as the protection agency for the criminals in the government. That must change. We can't have any more talk of, well, there's not going to be a tit for tat. We can't have any of that. That stuff has to be set aside. The criminals in the government must go to prison. Otherwise, it gets dark here in the future. And I know we're all excited. I'm excited too about Donald Trump's presidency. It can get really, really dark. And look, in parts of the world that are civilized, it's already getting really, really dark. In the UK, they're throwing people in prison for social media posts.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification arrests and so forth. So it's a really, really serious. People might think they're not doing anything harmful. They are, and the consequences will be visited upon them.
That's not some third world dump. That's not something that happened 100 years ago. Right now, our ally, our friend, free England has fallen already. You remember our neighbors to the north. You remember what happened to Pastor Arthur. The cops showed up in his church to get him.
Out! Out! Out of this property, you Nazis! Out! Out! Gestapo is not allowed here. Immediately, Gestapo is not allowed. Out! You're not welcome here. Nazis are not welcome here. Gestapo is not welcome here. Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths. Unbelievable, sick, evil people. Intimidating people in a church during the Passover. You Gestapo, Nazi, communists, fascists. Don't you dare coming back here.
It's exactly what it is. And our DOJ here has been just as bad, if not worse. Joe Biden took over the presidency, put Merrick Garland in charge of the DOJ. The attorney general in the country is the top law enforcement officer in the nation. And the Democrats took it over and promptly decided to paint Republicans as white supremacists and then use the DOJ to attack them.
The FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
And of course, Christopher Wray, his little lapdog, was more than happy to oblige in going after Trump supporters. In fact, he bragged about it.
Let me ask you about January 6th. Are you still pursuing January 6 cases?
We have any number of January 6 cases underway.
Former President Trump has referred to those who have been in prison or are facing trial as hostages. Do you see those individuals who took part in the January 6 riots as hostages?
I see the defendants in the January 6 cases as criminal defendants who are being charged with federal crimes and are in front of independent courts as part of our legal system.
Yeah, and very independent courts, trying all those poor saps in the communist Washington, D.C. with communist judges, communist everything there. Yeah, very, very independent. What's happened in this country the last 4 years is not something we can forget and forgive about just because Trump won the election and things are about to change. No, 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 no. People must be held to account for the crimes that were committed under the presidency of Joe Biden. Politicians, DOJ people, FBI people, bureaucrats, they must be held to account criminally. And look, so far, I'm encouraged by what I hear from Kash Patel.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops.
Will this happen? Well, I don't know. Will Pam Bondi fix things at the DOJ, arrest government people? I don't know. But it must happen, or we can't save ourselves. We got to fix that DOJ hut, all right? I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.